Welcome back to another Service Management Leadership Podcast. We have an old friend, I guess a couple years old friend, David Billouz. David, how are you doing today?
Fine. Thank you for inviting me. Thanks.
And so David is a talented guy, and I invited him to come share his experiences on a certain topic, and we'll spread this over 2 episodes. David recently became an ITIL Master, which is a big, big accomplishment. So congratulations, David.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And so I wanted to talk about what is that process? And I leave that open-ended. Like, how did you go about becoming a master?
Oh, yeah. So, these days, everybody wants to be agile. Yeah. Become an ITIL master is exactly the opposite way, because we don't talk about, using sprint, but it's a marathon. It's a very, big marathon that can last from 6 months up to 2 years to become an ITIL master. Okay. In my case, it took 6 months. And you have, different hurdles that you have to go through and different steps. I don't know if you want me to detail these steps.
You can go through them. That's fine.
So, in fact, first of all, you need to want it. Of course, it seems obvious, but it's not like you want it at the beginning and in the middle of the way, you quit. It's really that you want it, and you want it even if you know that it can last 1 year, 2 years. Okay. So you really need to know why you want that. In my particular case, it was that I really believe that what I already did in my life as an ITSM expert could be brought together in some very, I would say, interesting assignment that I wanted other people to judge. That was my, it's like when you have a peer review and you want your peers to see if you do it well, or, and that's the way I, had in mind this ITIL Master journey.
So
yes.
You were seeking, let me restate that. You were confident in your experience where you were seeking feedback. Hey guys, hey ladies, tell me if I'm thinking about this right. I think I am. Please give me feedback. And I'm confident that my feelings won't be hurt if you give me constructive feedback, but tell me if I'm on the right track. Is that sort of thing?
Yes, exactly. Because the only feedback I got was feedback from my customers being happy and paying my bills. But, it's not the kind of feedback you want if you want, to be an expert in a field. You really want that the others say, yes, honestly, this is right, good stuff or not. And that was why I really wanted to go for this journey.
And it's expensive, right? I mean, it's not like free. And so, and people know the ITIL certifications are not cheap. And so this one, of course, isn't going to be cheap. There's going to be barriers, including financial, to get there. So it's exclusive.
Yeah, honestly, just the price, you can think about, let's say, the price just for the certification is around, in dollars, it's around $4,000. So just the certification itself, I don't think about the time you spend on that. But so this is quite, a substantial amount of money just to get certified. Okay, and the different steps are also interesting. The first step, when you made your mind that you really want to be an ITIL master and you mean it, is of course to contact people set, and they send you an application form. The first thing is that of course you need to be an ITIL expert, or you need to have a number of let's say points in the ITIL Version 3 certification scheme. Because one important thing to say is that I saw sometimes on LinkedIn people saying like ITIL 4 Master. ITIL 4 Master does not exist.
Right.
It does not exist. So nobody can say that he's an ITIL 4 Master. It's not true. ITIL Master only exists for the version 3 of ITIL. This is very important. I know that because I try to work with Axelos to see when there will be a new certification scheme, you know, on top of ITIL version 4, but it is not the case yet. So ITIL Master, it's ITIL V3 Master. And regarding the process, so after you make the application, then you have to start with a proposal. You have to make a proposal about the assignment or the assignments you want to use for your ITIL Master. If your proposal is validated, then you have to create an extensive work package. If your work package is validated, you are, invited to an interview with other ITIL Master, and if they validate the interview, you become a master.
Gotcha. And the proposal, you kind of, said that very eloquently, but it's how many words were in or how many pages were in your proposal?
Okay, so in the proposal, it's limited in words. It's about 1,000 to 1,500.
Ooh.
And for the work package, which is the real, big chunk, as you say in English, it's 10 times as much. So it's about 10,000 to 15,000 words. Just for you to know, my work package was a 70 pages document, for instance.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. And what is in the work package, of course, I will not go in details, but what you need to show in your work package is that you really covered in quite a big level of details all the different phases of the service life cycle, all. Not some of them, but all of them, right, in one or more assignments.
So you had service strategy, service design, transition, exactly, operations, and continuous improvement.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
I just want to make sure, in case we have people that aren't familiar with those. And so with my experience, everybody can do the transition and operations and improvement. Those are easy. Strategy, service strategy is difficult in this world where, and I'm going straight at something, and I mean this with no offense to anybody listening. With such an ITSM tool-centric world that we live in, service strategy has been pushed aside, in my view, because we assume that the tool already has it. It's going to do your service mapping, all that stuff, and we lose sight of what is a service, what should be a service, what should not be a service. Anyway, what are your thoughts on that, David?
Yes, you're absolutely right. Fortunately, you're absolutely right. In any case, in the assignment I had, only few of them were, about service strategy. And when they were about service strategy, we have to be careful. What I had, it was much more like business relationship management process or demand management. So some things that, are quite easy, to downgrade from strategy to tactical or operational level. But you're absolutely right. That's the problem of, and that's also I would say, in some extent, why ITIL version 3 had to change a little bit. Because when we look at that, okay, we start with strategy and so on. For many people, starting with service strategy, was quite weird. They really didn't understand what that means, okay, to align the strategy of the business and the strategy of the IT services. It was not very talkative for them, but because, as you say, people, they use some tools, they use some templates, they use some workflows. How can you use a template? How can you use a workflow to align the strategy of your services with the strategy of your customers? Quite difficult.
Exactly. But I want to push in on design. See, I think design is easy. People make it hard. You just look at the 4 warranty processes, capacity, availability. You talk about continuity. You talk about security, and make sure those design elements are in your services. It seems pretty, we do those without thinking, right? Somebody sets in a change advisory board and they say, security looked at this. Do we have the manpower or woman power to do this? Do we, we do this innately, but strategy is the tough one to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in my assignment, I really had, my assignment was part of what they call a program, a demand management program. It was not just, it was really about, trying to be sure that you really know what demand management is about in really different levels. For instance, any kind of demand from the user side, from the customer side, from the what we call now the sponsor, so that means in fact the decision maker. Okay, so and in fact they really tried in this organization to model these parts, okay, to know what demand management means in these 3 levels of management, including the strategy part.
Gotcha.
And in fact, it was interesting because then, for instance, you end up with different types of service catalog, for instance, okay, because you can have in demand management, you can then make a typology of request, and then it comes with this different types of catalogs. You can have service request catalog, the catalog of services, addressing also some strategic stuff, but also the catalog of standard changes,
Yes.
So this was very interesting to see that, in fact, for this organization and the others, it makes sense. They see the relationship between these different levels of management.
Gotcha. And I'm glad to hear you say that, because there were 2 things that struck me as you were saying that, and I wanted to push in. One is, I think we do a poor job in the service management world, worldwide, throughout every organization, with stakeholder management, stakeholder engagement, identifying, find out what their desired outcomes, how do we engage it? So that's the first one. The second is, I have rarely seen a self-service catalog that was good and the stakeholders thought was good. I've seen some with 1,000 entries in there, and so somebody's got to scroll through.
Yeah.
And you think, we got to have this centric to the users, not to IT. I mean, it's one of those things that we have to be. I use a restaurant example a lot, David. If my restaurant, the restaurant I go to a lot is only set up the way they want to deliver food, not the way I want to consume food, my experience will be poor. And I think we've done that in IT.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yes, I totally agree with you. Yes, you're right. And that was also, just a second, I wanted just to add something on that. It's also mainly because of that unconsciously people still look at ITIL as only an operational framework.
Yes.
Only.
Yes. And you're right there, because I want to push in on that, and we can move on afterwards. I don't want to get too down this rabbit hole, but I think the cause of that was when we started separating out V3, especially operations, and outsourcing it. And once we outsource the operations, then our SLAs are messed up, our demand management's messed up, because we're worried about outputs, not outcomes, and it's all askew. What do you think about that?
Yes, you're absolutely right. It is true, and also the fact that in the meantime there was a kind of other frameworks. For instance, when ITIL version 3 appeared, it was the beginning and then the boom of DevOps.
Right.
It was exactly at the same time. ITIL version 3, 2007, 2011. It was exactly at the same time when DevOps started and become a very big, let's say, movement. And that's exactly, they say, yes, but your life cycle like that, it's vintage. It's something that cannot, we live in a world where people need to work together. When you say that, not only a dev and ops, but exactly, if you outsource, then you outsource, part of people. And then, of course, you create this, what they call, this wall of misunderstanding.
Yes.
Or you nurture that.
Oh, yes. And we have to nurture every relationship. I would say that if there's something that these last 2 years have taught us, build those relationships, all of them, nurture the people, the vendor, the everything, because you're going to need, you can't ask anything of a complete stranger nearly as easily as you can someone in a relationship. My friends ask me for favors all the time. And I'm happy to do it because we have all this relationship. If a stranger asked me for the same thing, I might do it, I might not, but it wouldn't be with the same emphasis. And I think that's where we have to invest.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
All right, so let's finish up this conversation. It's a great conversation. All right, you went through your proposal, you submitted your 10 to 15,000 words of a package of, hey, here's how they do it, here's how we, just so you understand. What was the final part? I have this image in my mind of people that like have oral exams, you know, to pass their doctorate. They have all the people lined up, peppering them with questions. How, what was the capstone part of that?
Yeah, so for that, one thing was very nice to me. It was people. I had two assessors on this interview, and they were very nice to me. I mean, what makes me think that if you are, you know, at the interview level, it means that you are nearly done. Why? Because they just want to check that you are the author of the work package, that nobody else help you, you know, with the content, of sure. And then it took me, in fact, it lost 1 hour. And during 1 hour, they asked me some questions about my work package. But the questions were not like, you know, to find out, to push me to make some mistakes. But it was really a nice discussion, you know, and some questions just to review or maybe to give more details than what I wrote in my work package. So honestly, once you have the work package done and you know you got the information that you will be invited to the interview, it's a very good sign. But don't forget, we talk about hurdle and we talk about the fact that each stage you can fail. So you can fail to be applied as an applicant, you can fail in your proposal, you can fail in your work package, and eventually you can fail in your interview. So that's the main problem.
Stay to it. And if you fail, you can come back, right? I mean, like if you fail in your proposal, they give you another shot.
Of course. It's not like you fail, bye-bye. No, you have a second chance, or normally they give you some feedback about that. Yes.
All right. So I have two questions, and you'll like both of these. First of all, in your country, are you the only master?
Yes, definitely. I would say in Central Europe, I don't know, but in Czech Republic, in Slovakia, or in the regions where I try to operate, I am the only one. Sure.
All right. Since you speak many languages, which language did you write your proposal in?
English. Oh. You don't have the choice. Oh. You don't have the choice, by the way. You don't have the choice. And one tricky thing, just by the way, to know is that, you know, as I told you, one of the prerequisites is to be an ITIL expert certified person. But if you have your ITIL expert certificate with PeopleCert, the certification fee for ITIL Master is cheaper than when you have it from another examination institute.
I do not. I had mine from too long ago. And so, you know, mine was almost a decade ago at this point. And I'm a big nerd at this stuff, David, and I have been for a long time. When I had a desk job and I had downtime, you know, everybody has downtime, I would go read the ITIL 3 books and say, okay, these are metrics we could think about employing. Most people are like, oh, let me go take a break and go take a walk. Not me. I was like, how can we dive deeper? And so it's the certification has passed a couple of different hands between when I got it and it is now, but that's okay. All right. Well, it's been great having you on, and audience, David will be back next week with more on the ITIL Master conversation. I have some discussion that I want to push in on. David, it's great having you with us, and thank you for your time, and congratulations again.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thanks.
Have a great day, everybody. Bye.